Hi. Please be seated. Hi, good morning to all of you. So, all of you are welcome to this session of History Optional Clear. Many students will join tomorrow because I think open session are not and old students who are supposed to join with us for world history. Clear? So, first of all, before we start this session, clear? We need to discuss briefly about the overall pattern of this examination so as to understand where the optional stands, basically, clear? And how far importance or how important is optional, and then we'll come to history as an optional subject, how far this subject has to be done thoroughly to score better marks. Understand first of all the brief review of thing about this whole examination, clear? You must be knowing, all of you, basically the overall pattern of this examination will directly come to mains examination, clear? Because here we are there for optional, basically for mains examination, clear? In this examination you have 4 papers of general studies, each paper of 250 marks. You all must be knowing this, clear? That amounts to 1000 marks, clear? Then you have one essay paper which again comprises of 250 marks, that is 1250 marks, clear? Apart from this you have one optional subject, be it any subject, clear? We'll come to later on with history, clear? That comprises of 2 papers, again each paper comprising of 250 marks, that is 500, clear? So altogether it amounts to 1750 marks. If you qualify for mains, you are called for personality test, which is again of 275 marks. So total ranking is done or service is allotted based on your score in 2025 marks, clear? This is the overall thing that needs to be understood, clear? This examination is about this 2025 marks, in which 1750 marks is directly in your own hand, for which you cannot blame any commission, clear? You cannot blame UPSC also, clear? Because they are allowing you to write 1750 marks and scoring marks is directly in your own hand, clear? Within this 1750 marks, just understand one thing, 500 marks are allotted to any optional that you may choose. Since all of us are sitting here and all of us are sitting here to have history as our optional subject, we need to understand what this 500 marks is all about, clear? See, one thing I'll let you know, make it very clear. If you look into the marks of selected candidates every year, you will come to know one important thing very clearly, clear? And that important thing is that in this 1750 marks, the game changer is only one thing, that is optional, clear? So game changer still remains to be optional of 500 marks. Why I am saying this thing? Based on the performance of the candidates in the past years, if you look into the mark sheets, clear? As far as general studies is concerned, there is almost average marking in all the papers, be slight variations in subjects like ethics, integrity, and to some extent essay paper. If you look into marks of paper 1, 2 and 3, marks are almost average, around 100, clear? And there the endeavor of every serious candidate is just to complete the paper. If you complete the paper, write 20 questions in 3 hours, your marks will vary around 100 to 120, clear? 90 to 120, 100 to 120, not more than that. If you look into marks of this year's toppers also, he has not scored anything extraordinary in GS papers. Like other candidates, he has got average marks. What made him difference? What made him top the list? Because in optional he got 361, clear? That made all the difference. Be it any optional, one thing I'll let you know, the game changer remains to be optional. So don't worry that only 500 marks is allotted. Variation of marks remains to be very high, clear? In history option also, this year I'll let you know, clear? There are students who have scored outwards 150 also. There are students who have scored 350 also, clear? It all depends on you. It all depends on your conceptual clarity. It all depends on your contextual reference, and it all depends on your writing practice, clear? So 500 marks allotted to the optional subject is still the game changer in the whole selection process, clear? So it cannot be ruled out. And unlike GS, whereby you are supposed to only complete the paper, in optional, believe me, you are not only to complete the paper, you are supposed to write quality answers in the optional, clear? Because your answers will be relatively judged as compared to other candidates who would be writing answers in history optional. Your competition will be only with the students of history optional, not with students of political science, not with students of geography or mathematics. Clear? You have to be one of the best among all the candidates who are writing mains with history as their optional subject. Now you need to be the best, you need to be very well performer so that whatever you are writing, it makes sense. Clear? Here comes into the intricacies that will go into this whole session of 5 months to understand what history is all about, how it has to be presented in the examination room. So first important thing that comes out of this discussion is optional is a serious business. Clear? It's not that you have to cover things superficially. We cannot do that. Clear? In optional, you have to go into depth. Clear? So that it reflects your mastery over the subject. And believe me, examiner, after reading one paragraph only, I also have been evaluating papers since a long time. After reading one paragraph only, will get to know how much depth you have in this subject. Clear? You cannot befool him. Clear? So altogether you have to, you are supposed to write 3 hours there. Clear? And in 3 hours, all your mastery will automatically get reflected on the paper. Clear? You cannot bluff anyone, especially the examiner. Clear? So optional means a serious business. Here you have to understand all the intricacies, all the important informations and concept, and then you can hope of scoring 300 plus marks. That is the minimum marks that can be expected out of any candidate, be it any optional. And if you are able to score 300 plus marks, believe me, no one can stop you from getting selected. If you have performed average also in GS, and performance in GS has always been average. Clear? If one candidate is good in history, he may not be very good in science and technology. Clear? So obviously his marks will get balanced in GS. If one is very good in science and technology, he may not be very good in polity. Clear? So one thing is very clear, there you cannot have mastery. Clear? But whatever subject you are choosing as your optional, it is expected out of you that you need to have mastery over the subject. Clear? So in this class, when we'll start the session, clear, try to develop that mastery over the subject. Clear? Make the subject get internalized within you. Clear? Nothing should be imposed upon you. In this class, we'll have a thorough discussion. It will not be only a class from my side. In fact, I expect every candidate to ask questions so that it is more of participatory in nature, so that things, whatever you are asking, gets ingrained in your mind, so that subjects get internalized. Make it very clear. This subject or any optional need not be memorized. It has to be understood properly, because you won't get any question whereby you will just vomit on the paper. They will expect clear-cut understanding about the context and the concept. Clear? And in this, you will have a major role in classes only, where we'll discuss all the intricacies. Clear? So one thing that makes it which needs to be very clarified, that optional remains to be a game changer. Even though now it is only one optional, when we used to write paper, we used to have 2 optionals. Clear? Even though it is one optional, still it remains to be the game changer. Since you are taking this thing, make it as a serious business. How we are going to proceed, we'll discuss that. This is one thing to be understood. So optional needs to be done. How we will deal with this subject, we'll just understand that. Clear? We will start with the very first topic of our syllabus. This session will start with world history, because world history is not directly connected with the large chunk that is Indian history, that will include ancient, medieval and modern. Clear? So we'll start the class with world history. Clear? When we start this class with world history, I would expect from all of you that try to be with me in the class. Clear? What I mean to say, clear? Don't run after materials. Clear? See, since you are sitting here, I want to make one thing very clear to all of you. Clear? You will have to trust me. Clear? You will have to trust me, because I will try to get through into the subject. I'll take you with me into the subject. Into the subject means into the depth of the subject. Just try to flow with me. Clear? And if you try to flow with me, make it very clear, you have to be not only attentive in the class, you have to be regular with classes. Clear? Don't take off from classes, make it very clear. Don't run after materials. Whatever we'll discuss in the class, believe me, you can ask from other students who attended my classes, I don't skip even a subtopic from the syllabus. Clear? I will cover each and every subtopic and topic in the class itself. You don't have to run after any material. If required, those materials will be given to you in the class itself. Clear? Don't try to purchase any book and all. Try to be with me in the class. I will give you dictation also. All the notes will be there with you. You just have to do one thing. go back to your place, revise for 1 hour, and if possible, try to write some answers. Questions I'll be giving to you, clear? Try to do some writing practice from now onwards, clear? This is one writing practice from now onwards, clear? This is one thing to be understood. Don't worry about materials. Don't run after any books and materials, clear? Try to be with me in the class. That's all I can say, clear? Meanwhile, just understand, I'll let you know, clear? That since you have decided to opt for history optional, there are certain myths that I want to explore. You must be knowing this, clear? One myth is that, first of all, I'll let you know, is the subject scoring in nature? Is the subject manageable within the time frame? Is the subject that will suit your GS papers also? See, we need to understand some important things. One important thing I'll let you know, whatever optional list of optional subjects are given for UPSC, all those subjects are equal, clear? UPSC does not discriminate between the subjects, clear? And they make it a level playing field, clear? So history is equivalent to any other subject like mechanical engineering or philosophy, clear? So just have this thing very clear in your mind that this subject is scoring and this subject is not scoring. No, every subject is scoring this examination provided you catch the pulse of the subject, clear? Make this thing very clear that history is not scoring. History equally scoring, and this time the highest marks in history score is 344, clear? Which is equivalent to any other scientific subject also, provided you understand the nuances of the subject, clear? My own candidate who got 653 rank, but he got very good marks in history, that is 314. Any person can score any marks in history, clear? You need to understand the nuances of the subject first of all, clear? So this subject is equally scoring like any other subject, clear? One thing that should be not there, just should not be there in your mind. Second important thing to be understood about history is that someone will tell you that syllabus seems to be very large, clear? Cannot be denied, it's bit large, it's bit extensive, but the best part with history syllabus is every topic has been explicitly mentioned in the syllabus. Unlike other optional like philosophy, the syllabus seems to be very small, but there are large embedded topics in philosophy that also needs to be covered. If you elaborate those embedded topics, it will equally become in lengthy in nature, clear? So UPSC does not discriminate. The best part is all the topics are explicitly mentioned, and if you cover all those topics, you won't find any question out of the syllabus, clear? And even though it seems to be a bit large, the best part is predictability in history is quite unexpected lines. It's quite high in nature. What do we mean by when we say predictability is quite high? For example, we'll take ancient India only, clear? Even though in the class we'll cover each and every topic, but within ancient India I'll let you know two important things to be understood, clear? That one important thing is if you cover the whole syllabus, nothing would be skipped out. But within that discussion I'll let you know which topics are to be emphasized more, from where frequency of questions being asked is high in nature, clear? So in ancient India, even though we'll prepare the whole thing, in the last I'll let you know only 3 to 4 topics from where you are bound to get questions, clear? You are bound to get questions from sources, the first topic. You are bound to get questions from Indus Valley. You are bound to get questions from Jainism, Buddhism and modern empire. If you do these ones also, 2 or 3 questions cannot be missed out. This is one thing should be very clear. Similar predictability is very high in medieval India also. Predictability is quite high in modern India and world history also. So even though syllabus seems to be quite extensive, predictability factor is very high, and those predictability factor will also be explained in the class itself. Don't worry about that, clear? Moreover, at the same time, clear, when we start the classes, the most important ingredient of these classes is regular test. Every Sunday we'll have test, and I expect every one of you do write the test, and that too seriously, clear? Once your evaluated answer sheet will be given before the next test, next Sunday only, it will be given along with model answers also. Sit with me with your answer script so that we can have a discussion how to enhance the quality of the answers. Do write the test. It's very important and integral part of this examination. And once you start writing, the jinx of not writing the answers will get eroded. And one important thing I'll let you know. If you develop that required skill, which is required in optional, writing skill has a rubbing effect. What do we mean by rubbing effect? If any person can write a very good answer in history, he will obviously write good answer in general studies also. He will obviously write good essay as well, because writing skill has a format. Once that format gets into your mind, it will have a rubbing effect everywhere. So it can be in the process that you can develop that skill in history, it will get automatically reflected in general studies paper as well. Clear? That will be another advantage if you go with writing practice continuously. Moreover, even beyond that, some candidates do write answers every day. You can give both answers every day to me also. I'll get the answers evaluated so that on a regular footing also writing practice can be done. But as a ritual, every Sunday here is fixed for answer writing. Come to this place, write the answers. This is very important integral part of the whole program. Clear? There's another thing that we focus upon in this whole process. We start with world history. Every week I have a target to complete one topic. Clear? Once I complete one topic from Monday to Friday, on Friday, by the end of the class, we'll discuss last 5 years questions asked on those topics. Clear? So that you are well aware about those questions also. I'll give one day as a study leave on Saturday, and on Sunday you will write the test on the same topic with different set of questions. Clear? So in 2 layers, topics will get prepared, confidence will get built up from the very beginning. So by the end of the course, you are very confident that you know the concept, you know the content, you know the context, and you have done sufficient amount of writing practice as well. Clear? This is an integral part of the whole exam, of the whole course. Along with this, I'll let you know. Clear? In this class, I'll be giving you some maps also side by side. Clear? So that without graphic understanding, things doesn't get embedded in the mind. Clear? While you will be given those maps, the utility of those maps are clear. The topics as it is going on, try to staple that map in the notes itself, so that while you are revising, things are getting into mind very clearly. Clear? For instance, I'll let you know, when we start with world history, we'll start with the fall of Constantinople in 1453. That was the epoch-making event because it resulted in 2 important developments like Renaissance and Reformation. Clear? Now, where is Constantinople? What is the importance of Constantinople? Unless you locate the place at this point of time, you won't be able to understand the whole thing. Clear? See, one thing I'll let you know. History is a study of time. Clear? And geography is a study of space. But history or developments in time does not take place in vacuum. It takes place at certain points, certain places. Clear? So certain amount of understanding in geography is also very important for complete understanding of history. Clear? So we'll understand Constantinople. Where is Constantinople right now located? Yeah. It's like Constantinople is nothing but the modern city of Istanbul. Clear? Istanbul is a very prominent city in Turkey. Why it was very important? Because that marked the end of medieval age in Europe, marked the modern age in Europe. Clear? Medieval and modern age started. Transitory phase in Europe was in 1453. In India, that transitory phase was also in 1 year. Clear? And that 1 year was 1757, which is basically the Battle of Plassey. Clear? So there are certain epoch-making years also. We'll come to that. How these years has been chosen by scholars, we'll come to that also, because in this process, just understand, we will not only look after years and events, we'll look after sense of historiography also. Clear? Sense of historiography means while you are writing answers in optional, you need to show you understand the sense of history writing also. Clear? That sense of history writing or method of historical writing is known as historiography. Clear? Why all the years are not important? Why only some years are important? Why only 1757 Battle of Plassey is important? Why not 1756 is important? Why not 1758 is important? Clear? There's a reason is any year which has been taken as a significant year depends on the consequences of the events that took place in that year. So all the years are not important, but years which has been chosen by scholars are the years which had huge impact on succeeding generations, the event that took place in that year. So it may not be important that we need to understand about 1756 or 1758, but we need to know about 1757 and we need to know about Battle of Plassey. Like in this year, we'll look into 1453 because there's a debate among European scholars even now that modern age did not begin with fall of Constantinople in 1453. It started with discovery of America by Columbus in 1492. Some scholars also say that modern age Europe began with the Reformation started by Martin Luther in 1517. These are years, these are debates, we'll come to these debates. But among these debates we'll have a valid conclusion, which is the date which is largely accepted among all the scholars, almost unanimously. And that date we'll discuss with arguments. That's 1453, the fall of Constantinople. Clear? So we will not only study about dates, we'll discuss why this date has been chosen as the year to start any major developments. Why scholars choose these dates? If you read a work that is What is History by E.H. Carr, E.H. Carr writes, all the years are not important, all the events are not important. Historians choose certain dates, certain events which have long-term consequences to judge its importance. Clear? In this class, therefore, we won't be only reading about dates and events. We'll look into the context under which the year became important, the events became important. Clear? Battle of Plassey. Why it took place only in Bengal? Why it took place only against the Nawab of Bengal? Why not other rulers of India? Why only British? Why not French wanted to fight this war? All these contextual things need to be understood to understand the real significance of the Battle of Plassey. Clear? The Battle of Plassey. Clear? All these years are epoch-making years that has made huge difference to the mankind lives. Clear? And why do we study this discipline? The reason is that history provides us with reference points. Clear? When you say something, see, I'll let you know what is the relevance of history as an administrator. Clear? When you are called for any meeting in administration also, and they ask you, what do you think is the solution for this problem? How do we start? That I think this problem, the problem to solution to this problem is this, and this measure should be adopted. Because such and such measures and issues took place in the past, and such measures were adopted at the time that proved to be effective. So you take reference points from the past. Clear? History is all about taking the reference points from the past, understanding the past so as to enable us to take more valid and balanced decisions even in contemporary times. Because as we know, history repeats itself. Since it repeats itself, reference points becomes very valid in order to take any decision in coming time. That is the relevance of studying this discipline, which is basically an event or overflow of events marked with certain discrete or certain deciding factors or deciding points as well. So in this class of history, we'll understand what are those deciding points and how those deciding points shape the future generation, or rather the coming generation as well. So this is the relevance of this whole discipline of history. That is why Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel also said once, clear, only at its peril, India or any nation can ignore history. Clear? Because without knowing history, we cannot take any balanced decision. We cannot give any advice to other authorities also. Even when you write essay, why you take a reference point of Mahatma Gandhi? Why you take a reference point of Abraham Lincoln? Clear? Because these persons under certain context operated in a unique fashion. And that unique fashion, if replicated, can result into better solutions for coming generation also. So history provides us with reference points. With those reference points, we can take a better and balanced decision in coming time as well. You do understand reference points. It will help you not only in this optional, it will help you throughout your GS also. It will help you throughout writing essay also. Clear? Without the reference points, you cannot write anything, and those reference points are to be taken out of this discipline of history. So it has huge relevance anywhere in life, anywhere in this examination, be it GS paper, be it essay paper, and even in interview also. Sometimes you ask, clear? The question is asked, if revolt of 1857 could not have taken place, what could have been the shape of Indian nationalism? Clear? You have to think beyond that point also. That's why I'm telling you, it's not about marking up facts and figures. It's about understanding the discipline altogether. If Mahatma Gandhi could not have been there, what could have been the shape of Indian national movement? We need to understand contrafactual things also. And in this discussion, the classes will understand all those contrafactual things as well. Clear? We need to make things very clear with regard to this discipline. Clear? This is one thing to be understood. Clear? So history will proceed in this fashion. We'll take the major things as reference points, understand the events in chronological order, and try to give it a contextual backing. Clear? Contextual backing in this discipline is much more important. Clear? This is clear first of all these things clear. Nuances of this discipline needs to be understood perfectly. Until you understand the nuances, it won't be easy. Mugging up or rote learning will not work, at least in optional. Clear? In optional, you need to understand all basic things, all important things with contextual backing. Clear? Is this clear? Before we end up at this point, any question that comes to your mind with regard to the subject, with regard to the whole overall pattern of this examination, before we go into the depth of analysis, clear? These were all macro analysis. Micro analysis will go when we'll start the discussion, clear? Anything that comes to your mind with regard to this subject, before we go into micro analysis, how we are going to proceed, what would be our approach in this exam, in this whole course. Any question that comes to your mind with regard to the whole overall pattern, please. See, I'll let you know. This is optional program. And in this optional program, since you have to write the examination there in the mains examination for 500 marks, it is a written examination, so all the tests that we'll have on weekly basis, on every Sunday, it will be written test, subjective examination, clear? If you want assistance for objective questions, that will start after November. When prelims start approaching, we can start with that. But right now, our focus will be on optional, and in optional, we'll have all the tests which is subjective in nature. Answers has to be written in comprehensive fashion. It has to be evaluated, and after evaluation, we'll provide you with evaluated sheets and model answers also. Anything else that comes to mind? See, these are micro analysis will come. First of all, overall pattern, where history stands, clear? Make one thing very clear in your mind. This is very important, clear? Every optional is scoring. Every optional or in-optional may not be scoring, clear? First of all, it depends how you approach the paper, clear? Approach of paper will matter a lot, writing practice will matter a lot, and if you flow with the classes, things will be alright, clear? Don't run after materials, don't after books. Printed materials would also be given to you, clear? But I would ask you, read those printed materials, but largely focus on the class notes, dictation that will be given to you on a daily basis, clear? Go back and revise, clear? These are macro things, but I want to understand, is there any doubt with regard to history as an optional? Then we'll go to intricacies, clear? Is there any point that you want to know about history as an optional? The selection percentage, the candidates you want to know, at the same time the marks you want to know. First of all, explode those myths from your mind, clear? Be very clear, clear? Do you want to ask anything with regard to pattern of this examination and where history is placed in this pattern? Where history is placed in this pattern? Is that clear? Anything that needs to be asked, make it very clear. This time also and every year, in top 50, you will find at most 1 or 2 candidates from history. Clear? Make it clear. This is not the case. Clear? You should be clear. Last time also there was Aprajita Sharma 40. This time Nandi Maharaj 42. Clear? Rank are achieved provided you write the answers. Believe me. Clear? This time history has got enough results. Clear? Rank 42, 51, 83, 115. These are all history candidates. Clear? You will get enough number of candidates, and believe me, none of them, or very few of them are from history background. All of them, most of them are engineers who have taken history optional. Some of them are commerce graduates who have taken history optional, and they have scored very well. Clear? So it's not about your educational background. Make it very clear. Any person can develop the interest. It depends on you, and it depends on me also. Clear? Generating interest in the subject also depends on the teacher. Clear? So leave it on me to some extent. It depends largely to you, but it depends most relatively on me as well. We'll develop that interest. Don't worry. It's very interesting, very scientific in nature. Clear? Don't make one thing make clear. It's not to be memorized. Clear? I want to make it very clear. Any optional, if you think that it has to be memorized, it is the end of that subject for you. Clear? Optionals are not to be memorized. Optionals are to be understood comprehensively. The day you realize that optional needs to be memorized, it is the end of that optional for you. Go for another optional. Believe me, don't have to memorize. You just have to understand the things properly. Is that fine? The macro things, 500 marks, the game changer, optional is always very important. Clear? And believe me, another thing here only I want to make it clear. There are certain students who come to me that, is there any chance that pattern of examination will get changed and optional will get eliminated? These are all rumors. Clear? Suggestions are given time to time by various committees, but those suggestions are only mere proposals. Clear? It is not the decision of the government or DOPT or UPSC to take that thing. Clear? And if it is done, 3 years prior intimation would be given to all the candidates, which has been made clear by UPSC. So by that time you will complete the whole circle of writing the attempts. It will not be done to the disadvantage of any candidate, any person. Clear? So make one another thing very clear. Optionals are here to stay. Clear? There are very least chances that pattern of examination is going to change, at least for time being. Clear? They have changed the pattern in 2011. They paid price for that. Clear? They had to conduct UPSC, or they had to come on backward. They made CSAT paper only qualifying in nature. Initially when it was introduced, the marks of CSAT were also to be counted. And of late, since CSAT has been only qualifying in nature, it has only become a ritual to be attended by candidates. Nothing more than that. Clear? It cannot be done in haste. It will take time. And prior 3 years notice will be given to every candidate. Also eliminate this doubt from your mind. I just want everything to be clear in your mind so that you are very much settled how to proceed with the things. Is this clear? Clear? Now coming to history as an optional subject. Clear? Syllabus has been given to all of you. Clear? Coming to serious business. Clear? See, starting the paper is as civil services says, notification says. Clear? History syllabus for the mains, just look into the first paragraph. History syllabus for the mains examination has 2 papers. Paper 1, it starts from early ancient history and goes up to 18th century, that is ancient and medieval India. Begins from the Europeans' arrival in India, that is modern India, and covers the entire modern Indian history. Even it includes post-independent era also. Post-independent means India, developments India after India's independence. Clear? Then at the same time, this paper extends beyond Indian independence and goes up to the disintegration of Soviet Union in 1990. That is world history. It starts with Enlightenment ideas. It comes up to the disintegration of USSR or Soviet Union. While paper 1 has 24 titles, look into 24 titles, topic number 1 to 24, clear? I have divided into ancient medieval, clear? Topic 24 titles, clear? The whole ancient medieval India. And paper 2 will has 27 titles, modern India being the large chunk, clear? It starts from European penetration into India and continues till topic number 15, modern India, post-independent era, and then world history. It starts from topic number 16, Enlightenment ideas, 27th one, that is disintegration of the Soviet Union and the rise of the unipolar world, that is headed by United States. Clear? Till this point, this syllabus starts. Clear? Now, this whole syllabus, just make it very clear. Clear? It will take 5 months to be completed thoroughly. Clear? Not less than that. I want to make it very clear. It will take 5 months from here. Clear? So if we are starting from 1st of July, it will go up to November end, I suppose. Clear? It will go up to now. It can vary for weekdays or 10 days, not more than that. But make it till November end. We'll just wind up this course. Clear? It will take this much time. I cannot. It can go beyond this, but it will not be less than this. With my experience, I'll say it may extend for 10-15 days, but it will not be less than that. Clear? This 5 months, this whole thing will take 5 months if we cover each and every topic and subtopic elaborately. This is one thing to be understood. Clear? Tomorrow, or rather from today itself, we'll start with world history. That is section B of paper 2. We'll start with Enlightenment and modern ideas. First of all, we'll have the background. We'll complete this world history in 1.5 months by mid of August, clear? And then we'll move on to ancient India. Now just understand, world history is quite straight in nature. Straight in nature means basically it has to be understood in the flow of events. Clear? Here historiography is important, but it is not dealt as strongly as it is done with Indian history. Quite obviously, we had been still conducting historical research on major developments in industry. Excavations, exploration are still going on Indus Valley sites in northwestern part of India. New sites are being discovered. So historiography will be dealt much more elaborately in Indian part as compared to world history. Clear? It's almost in a straightforward manner, but there are some debates we'll discuss here also in modern history, like the beginning of modern age only. 3 epoch-making events are highlighted by scholars. We'll discuss why we take only one of them as the major factor that marked the end of the mid-ancient times and beginning of the modern times. Clear? We'll have historiography here also, but historiography is dealt more elaborately in the section on Indian history, ancient, medieval and modern parts. Clear? At the same time, when we'll start with ancient India, I want to make it clear here itself. Clear? In ancient India, what is the pattern of the paper that you get there? There you will get 2 papers of history to be attempted in one day. That is 2 sessions in UPSC on the same day, 9 to 12, 9:30 to 12:30 and 2 to 5. Clear? This is normally the timing of UPSC. Clear? In first section, you will have paper 1, which will have ancient and medieval India. Understand the pattern also. It's very important because you are going to score marks. Clear? In this history paper 1, there will be altogether 8 questions. Within every question there will be subsections also. In those 8 questions, just understand, 4 questions will be from ancient India, 4 questions will be from medieval India. Out of those 4 questions each, question number 1 of ancient India and question number 5 of medieval India, that is the first question, are compulsory questions. You don't have any choice. You have to write those questions. Clear? So their question number 1 and question number 5 are compulsory questions. Remaining 3 questions are to be attempted, taking at least 1 question from each section. Meaning thereby, if you are writing 1 question from ancient India apart from compulsory question, you will have to write 2 questions from medieval India. If you are writing 2 questions from ancient India, you will have to write 1 question from medieval India. How to choose those questions also, we'll discuss. Because choosing the questions also decides your mark. Clear? If you choose questions which are more historiographically based, which are critically evaluation part, you will score more marks. Clear? Try to write questions on cultural aspects which are more scoring in nature, rather than going only into political aspects. Clear? I'll let you know, we'll understand which questions are to be picked up. And within that also let you know whether to attempt 2 questions from ancient India or 2 questions from medieval India. We'll let you know that also. Clear? It depends on your inclination also. It depends on classes also. We'll let you know how to go about it. Clear? Even though we'll cover every topic. Clear? Among those compulsory questions, very important thing to be understood, the first compulsory question which is asked from ancient India is related to map pointing. Clear? And again I'll let you know, the basic problem that has been faced by candidates till this date is that they could not attempt significantly the sites which has been asked in ancient India. 20 sites are given already in the maps provided to examination. You just have to identify those 20 sites and write short note of around 30 words on that site. Clear? Be it Indus Valley site. Suppose there is a site like that is Mohenjo-daro. You have to identify it as Mohenjo-daro, Indus Valley site. You have to write 30 words on Mohenjo-daro. Clear? While writing also we have to take some care basically where it is presently located, you have to write that. Clear? What is historical significance, and if any site is included in the World Heritage Site of UNESCO's World Heritage Sites of tangible categories, you have to write 1 sentence that also. Clear? For this question, which is very important in nature, and alone it is very impossible, because I was also a candidate. When I used to prepare, we used to find it very tough, because we had to take notes or points from NCRTs, then IGNU, then other materials that ancient India needs to be completed. That is, and at max, we used to get 250 sites, nothing more than that. Clear? And then also it consumed almost 2.5 months for us. Clear? Realizing this problem, since I was preparing only, I had one thing in mind: you need to have a ready material for this. Clear? Therefore, we came out with a very important work which is exclusively devoted to map entries for history optional. That book has been given to all of you. If not, it will be given to you very soon. It includes 418 sites. Clear? And last year only, out of 20 sites, 17 sites directly came from that, because we have covered all major areas, all major map pointers taken from ancient India, that is prehistory, till the late ancient phase, that is Guptas, Harshvardhan, and even early medieval phase as well. So one topic, and we'll have exclusively separate classes for map pointing. I'll help you out how to identify those sites, because scoring in that is purely mathematical. Clear? If you can identify 16, 17 sites, if you can write 30 words on that, out of 50 you can easily score 40 marks. If you score 40 marks in that paper and you write 4 questions properly, believe me, there is no chance that you cannot score more than 150 in that paper. 115 paper 1, 115 paper 2 will cross the 300 mark for you in mains, and that is sufficient enough to be in the list. Clear? So map pointing, it is very important section. We give special emphasis on map pointing. We will give you material also, in fact the book itself. In every test of ancient India, I'll be asking some questions on map pointing, so that practice should be done from the very beginning, so that sites are being identified. Suppose when we go into Indus Valley, we'll ask you to point some Indus Valley sites also, so that you get to know where these sites basically are located. In preliminary examination also these are asked from our map pointing. This time there was a question, which among the following is not a Harappan site? In GS paper I'm telling you. Clear? And there was options like Chanudaro, Kodwiji, Desalpur, and other sites. If you look into map pointing book, we have given everything. Soga is nowhere mentioned in Indus Valley site. Clear? In the map pointing book only you will realize. Clear? That is not a Indus Valley site. Clear? This mains optional will help you in GS to a large extent, cannot be denied. Try to do things with justice. See, anything, any area that you do with complete justice, believe me, it will have certain positive impact on other areas also. If that thing has been done with pure honesty and justice. Clear? This is one thing to be understood. So map pointing will be doing it exclusively. Try to do that map pointing seriously. 50 marks means a lot. Clear? Even single marks count in your mains examination. Coming to medieval India, again I'll let you know, my approach is there. Just understand. Normally, the trend that goes in the market is normally people from history options, they tend to write 2 questions from ancient India. Clear? Seems to be very easy, but don't go for easy things. Go for scoring things, I mean to say. Clear? Don't look for easy things. Clear? Normally what people do is that they try to write 2 questions from ancient India. Quite easy. You will get questions also, I'll let you know. You will get 1 question from Indus Valley, that is very short. You will get 1 question from Mauryans. In Mauryans also you will get question now from Ashok. We all know that. Clear? But going for easy things is not the job. Going for scoring things is much more important. Clear? What I have realized from my experience, medieval Indian questions is far more scoring than ancient India. And there's a logic. Logic is, in ancient India, things are still blurred. What I mean to say, research and explorations are still going on. Clear? For instance, anything you write about Indus Valley civilization, you cannot be certain. Certain means you cannot be 100%. You can be perhaps 50%. Why? Because still research is going on. If you write anything, research is going on. If you write anything about Indus Valley civilization, you cannot be exact because pictographic script has not been deciphered till this time. We have a limited information. Still exploration and extraction is going on. We don't know much about that. We cannot be very concrete while writing. We can only be deductive in method, that these are things, in this we can deduce that this may happen at that point of time. That's math. Nothing more than that, believe me. Clear? But when it comes to medieval India, I'll let you know, the greatest legacy of Turkish rule over India has been that they left a legacy of pure historical writing. Clear? In fact, history writing starts in early medieval India from a scholar from Kashmir, that is Kalhan, when he wrote the work Rashtarangini. It is the first historiographical work of India, and from 12th century history writing started. So whenever we write anything about Delhi Sultanate, or whenever we write anything about Mughal Empire, we are 100% sure. Why? Sources, in fact contemporary sources are there. If you write anything about Razia Sultan, we have the source of Minhajus Saraj. If you write anything about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, we have the account of Ziauddin Barni. If you write anything about Akbar, we have the account of Abul Fazl. And those original accounts are there with us. Based on that, when we write anything, we write with clear-cut conclusion that this was the thing that happened at that time. Since it is very concrete in nature, obviously examiner will also not have another perception to think they will allot you marks. But this is not the case with ancient India, at least still. Before Mauryans, this is not the case. After Mauryans, we have got plethora of sources. Clear? Ashokan inscriptions only. Then Gupta period, we have got large number of sources. So we'll come to that when we come to medieval India, things becomes much more concrete in nature, and therefore with sources you can write concrete answers. So personally, I believe, I have seen the marks also, if you attempt 2 additional questions from ancient India, apart from compulsory question, marks will shoot up. Clear? So in part 1, if you do map pointing properly, and in part 2, if you attempt 3 questions from medieval India, marks will automatically shoot up. And why I am saying there's another reason also. In medieval India, you will not get map pointing. You will be asked to write short notes. Short notes are covered from whole syllabus. So anyway, that compulsory question, if it is attempted, whole syllabus has to be covered. Clear? Anyway, if you are completing the whole syllabus, why don't you complete properly to write 2 more additional questions from medieval India only? Clear? So you can be choosy with ancient India, you cannot be there with medieval India, because short notes are to be written that will start from early medieval India, go up to the invasions of Ahmad Shah Abdali. That is still modern India. 5 questions or 4 short notes are to be written. If short notes are to be prepared, why not prepare the whole thing properly to write 2 additional questions from medieval India only? And predictability in medieval India again is very high. From Delhi Sultanate, even though topic seems so large, I'll let you know, there are only 4 rulers from where ruler questions are asked. First question will be from Balban. Clear? Second question from Alauddin Khalji. Third from Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And at max, if these are not asked, they will ask questions from Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Questions are there. And from them also, questions are very much expected. If questions are on Muhammad bin Tughlaq, it will be on his experiments. 5 experiments of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. If it is Firoz Shah Tughlaq, it will be upon his public works. Syllabus are mentioned. If it is Balban, it will be on theory of sovereignty. He gave divine theory of sovereignty. Clear? Topics are very clear, and I'll give you very ready-made answers on that so that you don't have to think also there. Once question comes, you can write it thoroughly. Mughals also. Akbar, you can expect question any time. Clear? Akbar and Aurangzeb, compare and contrast, it will come always. Whether it was Rajput policy or it is religious policy of Akbar and Aurangzeb. Questions are to be there. Mansabdari system, you will get questions. Clear? So things depend, predictability seems to be very high. Clear? In this would be the approach for paper 1. Clear? Even though we'll complete the whole syllabus, we cannot skip that. Clear? We are here to complete the whole thing. But at last we'll zero down on certain things from where questions are expected to come so that you can write perfect answers on those questions. This would be paper 1. Clear? We'll do enough justice, and scoring 150 plus in paper 1 is not a big deal, I'm telling you. This time people have normally scored 140 to 160 in paper 1. Those who have got selected. Clear? So this can easily be scored in paper 1. Map pointing should be done thoroughly. Clear? Coming to paper 2. Now just understand. Clear? Modern India. It's a large chunk. Clear? Almost 60% or 65% of paper 2 comprises of modern India. While this again I told you it's relatively shorter in length. Clear? And basically lesser number of topics. Modern India, again I'll let you know. Again I'll let you know, don't go for easy things. Go for scoring things. Clear? Modern India is very important, cannot be denied. It will help you in GS. In fact, with this option I'll let you know, 250 marks of paper 1. 150 marks will be done thoroughly in side by side. Why? Because topic number 1 to 6 in paper 1 of GS is history only. Clear? And that paper 1 will give you enough advantage. Clear? You can score marks anywhere. Modern India will be covering each and every aspect here. But coming to optional, I'll let you know one important thing. Again, there will be 8 questions in paper 2. 4 questions from modern India, 4 questions from world history. Question number 1 from modern India will be compulsory. Question number 1 from world history will be compulsory in nature. Clear? In modern India, you will be able to ask to write short notes. Clear? Again, I'll let you know. Modern India is very crucial in one aspect, that you need to have a balanced approach. Clear? You cannot write any approach which is biased in nature. And especially these days, when whole debate is going on, the topic like nationalism. Clear? What is all about nationalism? What was the concept of nationalism envisaged by Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi? What is the concept of nationalism envisaged right now in our country? Because these debates goes on. Clear? And while writing answers on modern India, you need to be much more cautious in nature. Clear? Because even a single wrong concept will land you in trouble. Clear? Believe me. Clear? So writing answers in modern India requires enough amount of practice. Clear? And that is why in modern India, when we'll discuss, when I'll give dictation, I'll make it very clear, every single matters. If you write any wrong concept about Mahatma Gandhi, believe me, outside UPSC there can be whole opposition to Mahatma Gandhi. Within UPSC, you cannot afford to write even wrong single word against Mahatma Gandhi. His philosophy has to be not only accepted but respected for UPSC examination. Clear? How need to understand Mahatma Gandhi, how you need to understand his ideology and strategy, it needs to be done thoroughly in the class. With books you will never come to know. I'll let you know one important thing only. Clear? This time in mains examination history optional there was a question. Was the withdrawal of non-cooperation movement by Mahatma Gandhi a national calamity? National calamity within inverted comma. Clear? Question seems to be very easy. Even a candidate from general studies can write. Even a non-history student can write this answer. Clear? But again, it is not easy as it seems to be. Clear? Whether it was a national calamity or not, you have to come to this debate. Was it a clear-cut strategy of Mahatma Gandhi, or was it a withdrawal or retreat of Mahatma Gandhi? There's a whole debate that goes on. Why this question has been asked? Because recently the argument has been given by some scholars that because of withdrawal of non-cooperation movement by Mahatma Gandhi, India's independence got delayed by 25 years. Because Mahatma Gandhi himself said, if this movement continues for 100 years, India will attain Swaraj. And he only announced the withdrawal of non-cooperation just on the basis of one sporadic violent incident in India. Clear? Now, whether it's was a national calamity, it needs to be understood. But if any candidate writes that it was a wrong decision of Mahatma Gandhi, believe me, you will be penalized. Clear? You need to have a balanced approach. So history optional, especially modern India, requires a highly balanced approach. Clear? Therefore in the class we'll discuss that approach to be adopted which is unanimously accepted among all the elite classes and all the experts in India. Clear? Don't get carried away. Clear? Nationalism, as you see in media channels and news, this is not the nationalism. Clear? We need to correct yourself at this time only. Nationalism is something else, which was envisaged very clearly by Rabindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi. Clear? There is no definition of nationalism. Any one of you? Any one of you knows the definition of nationalism? What is nationalism? Talk, leave aside now. What is Indian nationalism? We'll come to debates. What is Indian nationalism? You keep on hearing. Last time also, sometimes back, election got over. The whole election campaign was based on nationalism. Then what is nationalism? Any political leader must have defined nationalism then. What is Indian nationalism then? The whole election has been fought on nationalism. Issue of nationalism. Then what is nationalism? How do you define Indian nationalism? Any one of you? The whole election has been fought on this topic. Nationalism and anti-nationalism, sub-nationalism, pacification of minorities, all these things. What is nationalism then? What is Indian nationalism? The whole election has been fought on this issue. Then what is Indian nationalism? Any one of you? See, that is, things seems to be very easy. It keeps on reverberating in our ears off and on. But we exactly don't know what exactly is this. What is nationalism? What is nationalism? Do you think that shouting slogans in Lok Sabha House is nationalism? Do you think that fighting elections on the basis of nationalism is nationalism? Or nationalism thing which is much above all these things? What was the definition of nationalism given by Rabindranath Tagore and followed by his disciple Mahatma Gandhi? Because for Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore was his guru. Clear? What was that nationalism? What is this nationalism? 2 days back also there was a debate going on in Lok Sabha about the integration of states and all. Clear? And the respected Home Minister of India said that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel integrated all the princely states within India. It could not, Kashmir could not be done just because of it was to be integrated by Jawaharlal Nehru. Nehru committed a mistake. We'll understand the whole thing, whether Nehru committed a mistake or not. Because all these things has become very relevant. That is why, even Lok Sabha debates, what are the reference points? History. The whole reference points is history. History has to be done. We cannot neglect this thing. Clear? It is said that it was because of Nehru that 1/3 of Kashmir is there with Pakistan. That was the statement given by Misha. Clear? Whether it is right or not, we'll come to history. We'll discuss that. Because now we'll discuss history into in depth. Clear? Was that a wrong decision by Jawaharlal Nehru? Was that a practical decision by Jawaharlal Nehru? What really we are paying price for that decision of Jawaharlal Nehru? We have to come to that conclusion. Clear? Because here we'll have to come to a conclusion. Clear? We cannot go on debating unnecessary in parliament, but here in this class, taking history as optional, we have to come to that. Clear? So what is nationalism, any one of you? What is Indian nationalism? Any idea about nationalism? The whole election was fought on nationalism. History has become very relevant these days, in fact. Clear? Changing the names also has become a trend. Clear? And that indicates certain amount of ideology, cannot be denied. What is that? And believe me, I'm telling you. Clear? Keep on watching the news of the debates of these parliamentarians also, because some of them are very well qualified also. Clear? And you will understand the history very well. Clear? 3 days back, there was a statement of parliamentarian from West Bengal who gave a very important statement, clear, about the trend that is going on in India. And she has also taken a reference point from world history. We'll come to that reference point. Clear? Therefore, you will appreciate what is going on in our country if you understand history properly. Clear? You will be able to take a balanced opinion. Clear? She hinted about one important ideology being fascism. Is that ideology being trend in India? What is ideology of fascism? Because in world history we'll discuss this fascist ideology which was largely promoted by some leaders in Europe. We'll come to those leaders also. Clear? All these things has become very relevant. You will start enjoying these things when you understand the concept that what exactly entails all these things in historical background. This is clear. See, I'll come to nationalism and let you know. There is no fixed definition of nationalism. Clear? Nationalism is a fluid concept. It can change from time to time. Clear? For instance, I'll let you know, if you define Indian nationalism as something whereby feeling of fraternity is there among the people of India within defined political boundary. That is the normal perception that we have. That is known as Indian nationalism. Am I right? Most of you will agree with me. Indian nationalism is a feeling of fraternity and oneness among the people inhabiting this land within the defined political boundary extending from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Gujarat to the northeastern part of India. But tell me, in case India, in course of time, take the northern part of Sri Lanka under its command because of Tamilian issue, and large number of Tamilians in the northern and eastern part of Sri Lanka gets integrated with the Indian Union, will you call them anti-national? It can be done because Article 3 of Indian Constitution says the political boundaries of India can anytime be extended or decreased, and that too only by ordinary legislation. If Sri Lanka becomes part of India, will you call them Sri Lankans or will you call them Indians? The question remains. For instance, if you extend and take part of whole Kashmir, fortunately we can, that's a utopian, that's the thing I really want, clear? If whole Kashmir is taken and the whole part of POK comes with India, will you not call the people who has been included in India as Indians? The question is this. It's a fluid concept. It can change from time to time, and if you define nationalism in this aspect, our future generation may blame us that we did not do justice with nationalism. Clear? Nationalism means any time it can be extended. It basically entails global fraternity. Rabindranath Tagore was talking about global fraternity, humanism, clear? That should be the ultimate nationalism in the world. It cannot be defined within any political boundary. If it is done, it's a narrow definition of nationalism. We need to understand all these perspectives to move ahead, to make India a strong and a tolerant and a very inclusive country in real sense, clear? All this has to be done with understanding of the past, the history, clear? All these things. So modern India, it seems to be easy, but again I'll let you know, will have enough writing practice in this session, so that once you go for sufficient amount of writing practice, you are able to adjust the short notes in modern India and conceptual errors are not committed. If you fail to write 2 or 3 facts, marks will not be deducted. But if you commit any conceptual error, you will be penalized. Make things very clear in modern India. So modern India seems to be, in fact it's really challenging in nature. Even though it's easy, it seems to be easy, it's challenging. We'll have enough writing practice, and in modern India our approach and perspective will be much more important than mere range of information. We'll not be doing that, clear? We'll be developing our approach and conceptual clarity. Coming to world history, again I'll let you know, even though it's small but very important section, if not in modern India, I would ask you to attempt 3 questions from world history. 1 compulsory question and 2 questions. Why? World history is relatively straight in nature, clear? Since it is very straight in nature, answer writing is not a big challenge, clear? But normally, even though I say, normally I realize after students come to me writing the mains, they end up writing 2 questions or 3 questions from modern India only, clear? Even though you can write, provided you can, there are certain areas from where questions are expected. Economic policies of British, you are bound to get 1 question, I'll let you know. But in world history, if you write, chances are there, your scores will be relatively higher than other candidates, clear? This is one thing, but modern India has to be done thoroughly because it will help you not only in optional, in general studies also, to a large extent, both in prelims and mains examination. Prelims also, 17 to 18 questions are there from history, and most of the questions out of this are from modern history, clear? So modern India anyway has to be done thoroughly, clear? This approach needs to be followed. So in paper 1, more focus later on will shift to medieval India, but we'll cover the whole syllabus, clear? In paper 2, we'll cover the whole syllabus. We'll try to write 3 questions from world history, clear? Modern India, 1 compulsory question anytime has to be written, 1 long question. And I'll let you know, write long question from economic policies of the British, commercialization of agriculture, deindustrialization, land revenue. Questions are scoring in nature. See, choosing question matters a lot to score marks, clear? And we'll have this knack also, what questions are to be selected to write there so that marks can be scored, clear? Because these days, selection of questions become much more important than we used to appear. When we used to write the examination, we were not supposed to be write answers in specified space. Right now you have to write answers in specified space, that too in right chronological order. When we used to write, we were only given 1 question paper and blank answer copy, clear? So when we used to write answer, we used to write the first question that was best prepared, clear? So you had question 3 and we used to write the first answer to create psychological impression on the examiner that this answer has been well written, clear? But these days you don't have that liberty. First question means first question, Clear? Because with examiner, that first question will come to him. Clear? So you have to write. So you have to be much more well prepared to write questions in that order only. Choices are not there. Clear? So try to be well prepared so that one question or first question, if you write properly, it gets a psychological impression, and with this impression, examiner will continue to give marks in other questions also. Even if you have written average answers, which is the last answer, you will have certain amount of psychological advantage from examiner's side. Clear? And psychological advantage means advantage of 3 to 4 marks, not less than that. Clear? All this psychology also needs to be understood. Clear? This is the thing that needs to be understood within that subject. What exactly is the requirement of this examination? How far important is the facts? How far important is the concept and context? We'll understand that. Clear? Because we'll emphasize more on concept and context rather than only facts or informations. Clear? History is not about that. This is clear first of all. With regard to this approach, anything that needs to be asked, any question that comes to your mind.
So how far we have to be specific by writing GS mains paper 1?
See, in general studies, I would ask you, clear? History, I'll let you know. With regard to history, while you write answers in general studies, write answers same as you write in optional, but there's one difference. In optional, we'll be discussing about the ideas or approach or opinion of scholars. That is, scholars meaning that by when we write, they will discuss the revolt of 1857. We'll discuss the statement of V.D. Savarkar. We'll discuss the Essence. We'll discuss the statement of Disraeli, because all these arguments are to be given in optional. But when you write GS answer, you don't have to refer to these opinions. You have to write answers straightforward. Clear? So in GS, you don't have to go into deep historiography. But in optional, we go into deep historiography. So content is there. In GS, it becomes much more easier. Try to write in simple answers. In optional, we have to get into depth. Clear? We have to write about the perceptions, the observations, and the arguments of scholars also, contemporary persons also, especially modern India. Clear? If you write anything about tribal revolts these days, you cannot write answer without mentioning about Ramchandra Guha or subaltern school of scholars. Clear? Because subaltern scholars visualize the history from below, that is masses history. Clear? But you need not mention subaltern scholars and Ramchandra Guha in GS answers. GS answers have to be very straight in nature. Clear? We'll let you know how to proceed with GS answers, how to proceed with optional answers. Is it fine? So GS answer has to be much more straight in nature, optional needs to be much more in depth. Clear? Is it fine? That's the difference between GS history and optional history. Clear? Is it fine? Anything else? Any points that come to your mind? Anything else that you want to discuss? How we are going to proceed is fine. We'll start with world history. Clear? Yeah, please.
So as you suggested that we have to attempt at least 3 questions from world history. For instance,
take this not as a fixed formula, but largely I'll let you know. Yeah.
So in that there are many subsections also of a question.
Huh.
Like 1 to 1, A, B, C, D.
Huh.
So if I know A, B and C and I don't know D, then how far
Don't afford that question. Then see, if you don't know any one subsection also, anyway you will not get marks for that. Then at that is why I'm telling you, normally students end up in writing answers in modern India. Because in modern India, the benefit is, if there are 4 sections under one question, there are chances that candidates will know the information or at least about those 4 sections. So they end up in writing modern India. But if we are preparing, we'll cover whole syllabus of world history. If you know all the 4 sections, do attempt world history questions. It's straight in nature. But if you don't know one subsection, don't attempt anyway, because you will lose marks there. Then you are supposed to go with modern India only. That's one thing. Don't afford to skip questions, because if you skip questions, marks is 0. You cannot afford to do that. At least in option, you cannot afford to do that. You have to write 8 questions and all the subsections included within it. Clear? So if you don't know anyway, you have to go with modern India. Clear? But that chances were not there, because the way we'll cover every subsection, it is not that you won't know any question there. It all will depend how you write the answers. Clear? You will know the content part. Content part will not be an issue. That is one thing which is very sure. We discuss 5-year question papers also, and you will not realize the test that we'll be conducting every Sunday. In that process, you will not realize also, by the end of the test, you will be writing 30 tests. And in most of the tests, we'll be giving you last 35 years questions also. So side by side, you will be able to prepare those 35 years papers also. Clear? And once you do that, questions are repeated. In optional, questions are repeated. And if you get a repeated question, you know how to write the answer. Make it very clear. Clear? So in that Sunday test, weekly test, we'll be including questions from last 35 years also. Clear? We'll be doing that. Okay, and that too, will you get model answers also? So you have model answers also. So at last you can revise that and you can write the answer. So we'll have layer by layer to cover up the things that nothing is left vacant. So that you are able to write all 8 questions proper, 5 questions properly out of 8. My endeavor would be that you know all 8 of questions. And then you select 5 questions the best. And then you can write. That is the real preparation. You should know 8 out of 8. That's a real preparation. And out of 8 you choose 5 which is the most well prepared. That's the real preparation. And we'll try to do that only. Therefore, we'll cover each and every syllabus. Last year only, I'll let you know, many students came from Maharashtra. They'll be joining with us in the crash course. They said that there were questions which they didn't knew. I said there was not a single question which was asked out of the syllabus. Then he hinted me there was a question last year from medieval India, discuss the growth of development of Hindi language and literature during Mughal phase. Now, what is harm in asking that question? There's a topic mentioned in our syllabus, growth and development of Hindi language during Mughal phase. And there was the same thing repeated in the question. Now, if you don't prepare the whole syllabus, how can you blame UPSC? They're asking questions from syllabus only. Clear? And those things must be known to you. How can you avoid to read about or know about Tulsidas, who wrote such an important work in Hindi during the Mughal period, Ramcharitmanas? You have to know about that. Anyway, you have to know that. And even the content of that book, we'll discuss in the class. Clear? All these things are important. Clear? Malik Muhammad Jaisi, who wrote Padmavat. How can you know that? Whole controversy went on for one movie in India. And if UPSC is asking about the question growth and development of Hindi language, how can you ignore that? Prithviraj Raso, Chandbardai, he mentioned about Prithviraj Chauhan and the battle of Tarain against Muhammad Ghori. How can you ignore that? Anyway, it has to be done. It is a syllabus mentioned. So you cannot blame UPSC. So if you are picking and choosing things, you are at risk. Don't do that. So first important thing is, we'll complete the whole syllabus. The most important thing is that. I told you, the most important part of preparation is you need to know all the 8 questions. Out of that, you select 5 which is the most well prepared. Then that is the real preparation. And that will come only when we prepare every topic and subtopic of the syllabus. We'll speak up each one of them. That is why I'm taking you, clear? Keep me on check also, clear? Have this syllabus with you every day in the class. Keep on marking the topics which are being covered. Suppose we start with Enlightenment and modern India. The first topic is major ideas of Enlightenment, Kant and Rousseau. You will have to mark that once it is completed. If any topic is left, just let me know. You won't have this opportunity because whenever I come to class, I come with the syllabus. Clear? Because for me also, this is a circumference around which I have to rotate. Clear? I can go beyond the syllabus, but I cannot skip anything. That is one thing. Clear? So everything would be there with you. Clear? But do keep this syllabus every day when you come for class so that confidence comes. With confidence comes a sense of completion also. If you have completed every topic, when you step into the examination room, you enter with confidence. Whatever is asked, I know, because the whole syllabus is prepared. That one sense of completion and confidence should always be there with you. And that I'll ensure. Because I have to cover everything. That's why I took you. It makes sense for 10-15 days beyond November also. Don't get worried. But I'll let you know, we'll complete on time so that you are left with sufficient amount of time to prepare for prelims. Anyway, you are not going to start for prelims from before December. Clear? And you should not start also. Clear? Because ideally, if you start before that, you are wasting your time. Clear? If the strategy is right, 5 months is more than enough for prelims. Clear? Before that, we'll complete the optional part. This is the right time to start. Anything else to be asked? Any question that comes to your mind? Is the approach very clear to all of you? So that when we start discussion, we can start with in an organized fashion. Maintain a register, 4 registers with you. First of world history. When we'll start with ancient, medieval, modern, keep on revising that. If possible, try to prepare a synopsis out of it. Take 4 or 5 points out of the notes so that you can revise off and on, so that things are there in your mind, so that you can write answers very effectively. That is to be done by you. If not also, the notes should be in such a manner that everything will be there in your mind. You just have to revise once you go back after the class. Clear? Do write answers. This is the critical part. Is it fine? Now shall we start? Directly clear? Okay. Now the first topic that starts is Enlightenment and modern ideas. That's world history. Clear? And in this world history, first of all, we understand the first topic is major ideas of Enlightenment, Kant and Rousseau. Clear? Is that fine? Clear? Write the topic first of all. Enlightenment and modern ideas. Subtopic, Kant and Rousseau. We'll come to Kant and Rousseau separately. First of all, Enlightenment and modern ideas. Any one of you. Do you have any idea about enlightenment? What does this word mean? Before we go into history, what does the word enlightenment means?
Awakening.
Awakening. Enlightenment means awakening. Any other word thing? Enlightenment, will use the word in Indian history also. Gautam Buddha attained enlightenment. Mahavir attained enlightenment. What does the word enlightenment means basically? Generic word, literal sense. Awakening. Yeah? To attain, yeah. Basically enlightenment means to attain the real knowledge. Clear? So enlightenment means attaining the real knowledge. Clear? Knowledge not only by reading books, knowledge by self-realization, knowledge by observation. That's the real meaning of enlightenment. In historical perspective, we'll understand. Clear? Enlightenment is defined historically in world history. I'll make you dictate terms, just understand first. Enlightenment is defined as the last phase of the cultural movement that began in Europe, which is known as Renaissance. Clear? So enlightenment of ideas took place in 17th and 18th centuries in Europe, which is the last phase of the Renaissance, as Renaissance started way back in the 15th century. Clear? So enlightenment is the last phase of the Renaissance or cultural revival that began way back in the 15th century. So in order to understand enlightenment, which is in a continuity of Renaissance only as the last phase, we also need to understand about Renaissance first of all. Clear? What was this all about, which is known as cultural rebirth or classical rebirth of language and culture in Europe. We'll understand that. Clear? See, first of all, I'll let you know that there was very important region in Europe till medieval times. Medieval times is there in Europe also. This region was known as the Eastern Roman Empire. Just understand first of all. Clear? We'll have a map also with you tomorrow. Clear? The whole Europe that we look at now. Clear? The whole Europe till medieval times. Medieval times, what does it indicate? We'll look into that. Transitory phase we'll discuss. Why medieval got transferred into modern, what institutions were there in medieval times replaced by modern times. Medieval age in Europe was marked by two clear-cut divisions of Europe known as the Western Roman Empire or the Western Europe and the Eastern Roman Empire or the Eastern Europe. Clear? What was this dividing line? I didn't know. Clear? Major countries like Britain or United Kingdom, England, France, and other countries like Germany, they fall into Western Europe. Eastern Europe included the regions of Mediterranean Sea and countries right now like Balkan states of Romania, Bulgaria, Austria, Hungary, all these countries, along with one very sensitive region, that is the region of Turkey. Clear? It was in Eastern Roman Empire. The capital of Eastern Roman Empire was also known as Byzantine Empire. Clear? Just understand. Clear? Eastern Roman Empire was also known as the Byzantine Empire, which was a Christian empire, as it was decided by the principles of Christianity. Clear? And Eastern Roman Empire extending from the Mediterranean Sea until the region of Africa. This whole region had one capital. That capital of Eastern Roman Empire, this capital was known as the capital of Constantinople. Clear? This capital was known as Constantinople. It is presently located in Turkey. Clear? Constantinople was a very strategic location as it collected two water bodies. Clear? These two water bodies were basically Mediterranean Sea on the lower side, the southern side, and Black Sea on the northern side. Clear? Therefore, it was highly strategic located, known as Constantinople. The word is derived from the name of an important emperor of the Holy Roman Empire known as Constantine. And based on him, the city was named as Constantinople. Clear? This was in medieval times in Eastern Roman Empire. But at the same time, from 7th century AD onwards, a new religion was established in West Asia, the religion of Islam. And large number of Turkish people who were basically from Turkey. Just understand, Turkish people are not from Central Asia. The Turkish people was basically from Central Asia. But since they were largely dominating Turkey, they came to be known as Turks. Clear? They accepted Islamic faith, and in this process of spreading Islamic religion, they wanted to establish an empire. Clear? And this empire that began to be formed by in Europe and in Asia and Africa by medieval times came to be known as Ottoman Empire. Therefore, conflict began in Eastern Europe between Christianity and Islamic faith. This holy war is also known as Crusade. And when this crusade started at this time, the Turkish, the people from Central Asia and the Turks from Turkey, they defeated the Christian Holy Roman Empire and they occupied Constantinople. When they occupied Constantinople in the year 1453, it is considered to be an epoch-making incident. Why? Once people of Christianity were defeated at Constantinople, they were forced to leave this region. And when they left this region, they were forced to go to a adjoining region in the Mediterranean Sea, beyond Mediterranean Sea, and that region was Italy. And when they went to Italy at this time, they realized they lost a very important region which was very important for trading activities. Now they could not cross the whole region, mainland region, to reach Asia and Africa, which was very important for resources. They started era of geographical discoveries in order to search a sea route towards the eastern part of the world. And when they started era of geographical discoveries, this era of geographical discoveries marked the revival of not only European culture, marked the revival and learning of Eastern culture as well. This phenomena that started with the fall of Constantinople is known as Renaissance. Therefore, when this Renaissance started, quest for modern learning began to take place because they knew until they discovered the new land routes with scientific inquiry and reached the new area that is in eastern part of the world, they cannot overshadow the Turkish control over Constantinople. Therefore, fall of Constantinople that led to the beginning of Renaissance, first of all in Italy from 1453, is considered to be the end of medieval age and the beginning of the modern age. This is largely accepted by scholars all across the world. But here there is a debate. That debate is, some European scholars believe this date may not be taken to end the medieval age in Europe and the beginning of modern age. Rather, before this only they are of opinion at this time, or just after this, the beginning of, or rather the discovery of a new continent altogether should be taken as the beginning of modern age. And that continent was North America, discovered incidentally by Columbus in the year 1492. But it is said, era of geographical discoveries also took place because of the fall of Constantinople. If Constantinople could not have been taken by Turks, the era of geographical discoveries could not have been taken place, America could not have been discovered, New World in Asia and Africa could not have been discovered. Therefore, the real event should be fall of Constantinople, not the discovery of America by Columbus in 1592. This is one argument given, and it is totally overshadowed by arguments to declare 1453 to be the beginning of modern age. Second argument given is, some scholars are of opinion that modern age in Europe began with Martin Luther, who began to protest against the atrocities and corruption that prevailed in the church and the clergy class in Europe. What was that problem? Till medieval times, church was the most dominant religious institution, and the Pope and the papal, that is authorities in church, they started one measure whereby they began to sell certificates of indulgences. Any person who committed any sin in this world, they could be remitted out of the sin once they purchase a certificate from the church, and this certificate could have generated revenue to the church. Large number of indulgences began to be sold by the papal authorities to common masses, and they began to amass huge amount of wealth. It resulted into huge amount of corruption, and the first person to rise against this corruption was Martin Luther. He began to oppose the first of all these indulgences, sale of indulgences, and he wrote 95 theses which was placed among the masses, in the year 1517. It is marked the beginning of Reformation because in contrast to Catholicism, a new sect of Christianity was born at this time known as Protestant. And this marks the beginning of modern age in Europe. Some scholars believe this is the beginning of modern age. But again, supporters of this idea that modern age began in 1543 says that even this could not have taken place if Constantinople was not captured by the Turks and people could have started to question the authority of church at that time. Martin Luther also began to question the authority of the church because they realized the resources which are being confined to the clergy class will not be used for welfare and upliftment of the masses. The resources should come to emerging middle class at this time. Therefore, this reformation also started as a consequence of Renaissance. And Renaissance in turn was a consequence of the fall of Constantinople by the Turks in 1453. Therefore, the debates has been settled down to a large extent that the end of medieval times came to an end in 1453 and beginning of modern age began. But when this transition took place, what are the criteria on which we say medieval times came to an end and modern times began? There are three things which clearly became the features of medieval age, and all the three things began to be criticized with beginning of Renaissance from 1453. These three distinctive features of medieval times were, first of all, autocratic monarchy, as they were not responsible to the concern of the masses. Second medieval institution was dominance of clergy and the church. And third important thing was existence of an institution known as feudalism in Europe that never cared for masses. All these three medieval institutions began to be questioned after this, and with this questioning only, political changes began to take place whereby autocratic monarchy began to be questioned, dominance of church began to be questioned, and at the same time the existence of feudalism began to be scrutinized. Several thinkers and philosophers began to emerge, and all these thinkers and philosophers gave an important ideology while questioning the medieval institution. This ideology is known in Europe as ideology of deism. Clear? This ideology of deism produced long line of thinkers in Europe, and among those thinkers there were thinkers like Voltaire, there were thinkers like Rousseau, and there were thinkers like Kant at this time. All of them belong to one school of thought which is known as deism in Europe. What is this philosophy and ideology? According to this ideology, it believed that the whole universe has been created by God, cannot be denied. But at the same time, this deism believed that even though God has created the whole universe, God expects that all persons should conduct their life on ethical lines. And this ethics and morality should be based on two principles of logic and reason, meaning thereby all superstitious beliefs and practices must be questioned. Every decision must be questioned. Every decision of human beings should be based on logic and reason, and this logic and reason will lead to ethical code of conduct which is expected by the omnipresent God at this time. This was the belief highlighted by these philosophers, and among these philosophers of deism, two most prominent were Kant and Rousseau. And Kant and Rousseau professed the ideas in the 17th-18th century which resulted into Enlightenment. Enlightenment is seen as the last phase of the Renaissance. Background, first of all, needs to be understood. Is that clear? First of all, concept is clear. Medieval institutions are clear. Attack on Constantinople is clear. Why 1453? Not 1492 discovery of America, not reformation of 1517 is taken as the beginning of modern age. These arguments also needs to be understood. Is that clear? Okay. Beginning of modern age. Clear? Right? Introduction first of all. Clear? Right. The beginning of modern age and ideas. The beginning of modern age and ideas in Europe is traced back to the 15th century, traced back to the 15th century when Turks acquired control over Eastern Roman Empire, right? Eastern Roman Empire capital, over Eastern Roman Empire and its capital city. Constantinople, which was strategically located in Turkey. Right now, which is the capital of Turkey? It was at this time or later on. Ottoman Empire will come. Ottoman Empire also came to an end after First World War in 1923, and thereafter the name of Constantinople was changed to Istanbul, and the capital of Ankara was changed to Ankara. Clear? Constantinople was changed to Istanbul after First World War. Ottoman Empire itself came to an end after First World War. Clear? Right, Turkey. Right. This development took place in 1453. Which is termed in history as an epoch-making, epoch dash making epoch-making event to indicate the transition from the medieval age to the modern age. Clear? Change paragraph. Clear? Right. The fall of the Constantinople forced Europeans to shift towards the western side, and they settled down in Italy, beyond Mediterranean, the first region, settled down in Italy. Clear? Italy. Right. In this way, the Turks began to control the whole trade routes, crossing the Mediterranean and the Black Sea regions, along with the regions of Eastern Europe and Africa. That this was not acceptable to the Europeans, and they decided to revive scientific spirit and cultural learning, which is termed as the Renaissance. Clear? Like, therefore, you have to write in this format, therefore, it is safely accepted that Renaissance was a direct outcome was a direct outcome of the fall of Constantinople, present Istanbul, the fall of the Constantinople. Change paragraph, clear? Right. The spirit of Renaissance, revival, the spirit of Renaissance promoted, the spirit of Renaissance promoted an era of geographical discoveries, an era of geographical discoveries, whereby Europeans started to search new sea routes towards the Eastern world, new sea routes towards the Eastern world. Eastern world, EAS, Eastern world. Right, in this process, European sailor Columbus, incidentally, the word is important, not deliberately, incidentally discovered the continent of North America, right in capital, continent of North America in 1492. This year is important. In 1492, okay? Right. Some scholars believe that the discovery of North America should be considered as the beginning of modern age in Europe. Okay. Right. However, it must be noted, you have to refute this idea. However, it must be noted that this discovery was the consequence of the Renaissance, which was in turn started due to the fall of the Constantinople, Clear? Change paragraph. Clear? Right. With progress of Renaissance, a religious movement began. Renaissance, a religious movement began in the beginning of the 16th century. Termed as the Reformation. Okay. Right. During medieval times, the religious experts or the clergy, or the clergy started the practice of selling, started the practice of selling the certificate of indulgence, selling the certificate of indulgence, certificate of indulgence, whereby the sins of the people could be remitted, SINS, sins of the people could be remitted, REMITTD, could be remitted by paying certain amount, by paying certain amount. Like this resulted into collection of wealth. This resulted into collection of wealth and even corruption among the clergy class. Corruption among the clergy class. Among the clergy class. Right, in protest against such practice, in protest against such practice, a German thinker, Martin Luther issued 95, write 95 in words, issued 95 theses and challenged the people to question his arguments. The people to question his arguments. Clear? Arguments. That since 95 theses proved to be, 95 theses proved to be rationally right, proved to be rationally right. A new sect came to emerge within Christianity, Christianity known as Protestants, against Catholicism, named as Protestants. Clear? Right, the establishment of this sect in 1517, 1517, the establishment of this sect in 1517 is considered by several scholars, as the beginning of the modern age, as it attacked a prominent medieval institution, that is the church, medieval institution, that is the church. Clear? Right? However, such religious developments was an offshoot of Renaissance, which was started due to the fall of the Constantinople. That's the starting point. Fall of the Constantinople. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. Therefore, it is largely acceptable that modern age began from 1453, accompanied with Renaissance, till the 18th century. Clear? Write in a sentence. The last phase of the Renaissance, is termed as the phase of Enlightenment, which began with philosophy of deism, D-E-I-S-M, philosophy of deism. Right, as per this philosophy, the whole universe is created by God. And He expects human beings to behave ethically, based on logic and reason. I hope the ideology is clear. Based on logic and reason. Clear? Right. The philosophy of deism. Was promoted by several scholars. Among whom prominent were Kant, K-A-N-T, Rousseau, Voltaire, V-O-L-T-A-I-R, and even Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine. We'll come to this thinker. He wrote a work, Common Sense. Thomas Paine, Paine. Very important thinker to promote American Revolution. Clear? Thomas Paine. Clear? Right, next paragraph. Right, the Enlightenment ideas reinforced the beginning of the modern age. As medieval institutions began to be openly criticized. Okay? Right. The most prominent medieval institutions included right, point wise, number one, absolute monarchy. Second, dominance of the church. And third, existence of feudalism. existence of feudalism. We'll discuss each one of them. Clear? Distinctive features. We'll discuss our difference also between European feudalism and Indian feudalism. We'll come to feudalism in Indian history also, which started from late ancient times and continued till early medieval times. Clear? How Indian feudalism is quite strikingly different from European feudalism. Clear? Three major institutions which were challenged by modern thinkers, including Enlightenment philosophers Kant, Rousseau and Voltaire. The major being autocratic monarchy, not responsible to masses, dominance of clergy, and third, existence of feudalism that led to feudal lords. Clear? That feudal lords also exploited masses in medieval times. Clear? This much is clear. Anything that needs to be asked till this point? Now please. No. Thesis is basically it is written in the form of points. That was known as thesis. That is arguments given by Martin Luther, not in the form book. In fact, he got those 95 theses placed on the front wall of the church in Germany, clear, whereby a certificate of intelligence was being sold. Just that, challenge these arguments, then you can sell the certificates of intelligence. If not, sale of intelligence must be stopped. It was not in the form of book. It was in the form of arguments given by Martin Luther. Is that fine? Clear? Okay. Now, since it was the first class today, clear? Today we'll wind up here only. Tomorrow we'll have full-fledged class from here. We'll start from 11 o'clock sharp till 1:30. Clear? We'll start. Clear? We'll get this thing burnt. I think humidity is too high. Clear? So it needs to be, I think, done. Clear? Because I also came class after a long time. Clear? So I think this needs to be done. We cannot sit for long. Clear? So I'll get it done tomorrow by tomorrow. Tomorrow onwards we'll have full-fledged classes starting at 11 o'clock till 1:30. Clear? We'll start class. Some other candidates will join from tomorrow. Clear? Those who are left with, well, just do inform them. Clear? Is it fine? So we'll continue from tomorrow. Thank you.